Congressman Andy Biggs, welcome back to KNSC. How you doing, Congressman?
Great. How are you, man?
You know what? I'm doing better that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Before we get to questions, I wanted to personally thank you, and I know my listeners love you because your professional and gentle nudging, I believe, played a big part in getting Governor Ducey to have that press conference earlier in the week and open a lot of the economy. Not all of it, but a lot of the economy.
Well, I don't know about that. I just think that we should all kind of tell the truth and advocate for our positions forcefully but kindly, and maybe we get results now and then.
That's fantastic. So what was your reaction? I mean, Governor Ducey, it looked like there was no new data. I'm thinking the pressure got to him, which is good. We have every right to pressure public officials. But he said, all right, restaurants can open Monday and hair, you can go get a haircut on Friday, which I'll never understand why I couldn't be today. What's the difference? But he did leave some businesses hanging out there. He didn't say anything about summer camps, didn't say anything about bars, didn't say anything about church or temple, things like that, gyms. So what's your reaction to what happened?
Well, I think it's a nice start. I would, as you know, I would assume that we had done this quite some time ago. I think when I talked to doctors, I had a doctor on, we live streamed again yesterday, a tremendous researcher. I mean, we were talking about where you can go to open everything up, and what it is you have to identify the most vulnerable folks, protect them, help preserve their lives, but at the same time, you need to make sure that you preserve the other lives, too. We're not just talking merely economics there. We're talking lives. We're talking people who are afraid to go get their cancer treatments or their cancer screenings. We've got cases of people who are having heart attacks, strokes, who aren't going in immediately because they're afraid of getting the coronavirus. The impact of poverty is fantastic as well. When I say fantastic, I mean fantastically rough as well. People who have less are not going to get the full treatment that they need. We know kids are going without vaccinations. Those might have some secondary unintended effects as well. So the reality is, I wish we'd have done this sooner. I wish we were doing the specific targeted or vulnerable populations to make sure they were taken care of, plus the people who were taking care of them. I think we could have done some screening. That would have been great. I think you look at Sweden, they have the second lowest case fatality rate per million in the industrialized world. Ours is the first lowest. And the reality is Sweden did what I'm talking about. They kept their schools open. They kept their economy open. And what they did is they said, look, let's isolate the people who need to be isolated and really help those folks and target this thing out.
What's your prediction when restaurants open? I mean, the good thing that the governor did is he didn't say only 25% capacity or 50% capacity. He didn't specify anything, so it looks like they could just do business as it was doing 2 months ago. What do you predict is going to happen for restaurant, retail, this Friday for retail and Monday for restaurants?
Well, I think what's going to happen is I think these businesses, some of them are going to be concerned about liability, so they're definitely going to continue to try to do the social distancing. They're going to try to do some of the other CDC guidelines. And I think it's going to come back gradually. I think the market's really going to dictate this, which I think is the appropriate place, where if I go to a restaurant and I see that it's packed to the gills, maybe somebody says, I don't want to be in that restaurant because there's a greater risk of exposure. But if somebody goes to a restaurant and says, okay, they're doing some social distancing, they're putting people in every other table, maybe they feel more comfortable. So I think the market's really going to dictate that. And that's the beautiful thing about America. We've always let the market kind of dictate that, let people take the risk that they're willing to take, understanding that they are taking risks. And I think it's going to be a terrific boon. But I don't know if you've seen this, Garrett. There's another model that says if the country were to fully open, there'll be hundreds of thousands of deaths. But they also say there'll be 19 million more unemployed. So can you imagine a country of America with 50 million, 55 million people unemployed, and the poverty, the stress, the duress that we would be under? I think this is a terrific move to be opening up.
Congressman Andy Biggs is on KNST AM 790. You brought up liability. It's a good question. Do you think there needs to be federal legislation or just done at the state level to protect businesses? Because what if an employee comes back and all of a sudden gets the Chinese virus and says, you know what, I'm going to sue my employer. And that might scare employers too. I'm going to sue my employer and we have a big mess on our hands then.
Yeah, I anticipated that about a month ago. So I introduced federal legislation. Now, the federal legislation is only going to apply to cases that are federal in nature, like interstate compact cases. That they need to do this on a state level too. Legislators in Arizona need to anticipate this and take this up. And I think across the nation, I know other states are as well looking at legislation in this fashion. But we've got to make sure that you are not considered to be negligent simply because you are open up for business. And if you're following CDC guidelines and trying to do the best you can in that way, I think the reasonable person standard is going to say that's reasonable. You're not negligent, and that's really what we've got to clarify in law. And so I think if we did that sooner rather than later, but quite frankly, we've been advocating that. I've got my bill. I know a couple other people in the last week or so have introduced legislation, and the Democrats have basically said they have absolutely zero interest in putting liability protections in for businesses or churches or any other group that may be opening up.
Wow. So Democrats don't want any part of this. So as long as they control the House, nothing's going to happen?
If anything were to happen, it would be kind of minimal, and they would extract an incredible price to get something like that in. But don't forget, they're one of their biggest donation groups is the trial lawyers, and so the trial lawyers don't want any hindrance to their ability to bring lawsuits.
Do you think it would be hard to prove that, by the way? I know you're a lawyer, and I'm not asking for legal advice. But would it be hard to prove? If someone could say, I got this because I was at work and I got it at work. I mean, how do you prove that's actually possible? Because they could have gone to the grocery store or the gas station, who knows where?
Well, they're going to prove it by trying to do by elimination. So you got to prove proximate causation. So you'll see group attorneys want to do this in class action lawsuits. So they'll try to bundle a mess of folks together and sue somebody who they think has a deep pocket. So, but you're going to have to prove proximate cause. And the way they're going to prove proximate cause is they're going to say, somebody else. Turns out some other employee had the COVID-19. I didn't have it. I got there and I had COVID-19. The problem, of course, is if you do that for this particular virus, when you get to flu season, where we'll have 35 to 45 million people contract the flu, who's not spreading flu then, and what's the liability for that? So it would be a terrible precedent to set, but the concern is how they would prove it, and you've identified that, and they're going to say, well, I wasn't. I was, except for when I was at work, I was hovering in my house, and that's what they're going to claim.
Yeah, good luck proving that, too. Congressman Andy Biggs is on KNST AM 790. So the president is now getting more aggressive. He was in Phoenix yesterday, and he's talking about getting people back to work. He did an interview on ABC News, and this seems to be the media's play now, is they're going to sit back and say, as if nobody dies every day in this country for all kinds of reasons. It's never happened before. Somehow the government can protect everybody from dying. But now they're saying, well, what if somebody, you go back to work, somebody gets sick and some people may die. Is it worth it then? This is the tactic they're going to take. Even Andrew Cuomo is asking how much value is a life? And yet he celebrated abortion being done after the baby's born out there in New York. What do you think about the media's new tactic on this?
Well, I mean, this is the left does not want the economy to rebound. I mean, it's patent. It's on its face. You can see it, and the reason is for political purposes. It is one of the biggest shames and embarrassments that we should acknowledge, because the bottom line is this: we have the lowest case fatality rate in the country, and we've taken extraordinary measures. And you have to acknowledge, as responsible medical and societal experts will, that if you push this poverty and crush this economy further, you will actually have more pathologies, probably more deaths as a result of this. You cannot solve every problem, but you can take steps to mitigate. They have moved the goalposts. Don't forget that a month and a half ago, all the celebrities were coming on saying, let's flatten this curve. Well, the curve's been flattened everywhere. The curve has been flattened. And now the next step was, okay, we need to make sure that nobody dies of this. So we have to really reduce the deaths. So the case fatality rate is almost nil. And now it is nobody can get sick from the COVID virus. In other words, you can never open up again on that moving scale that they're doing of what they think the standards ought to be. And why is that? Why do they care? Well, the people that are pushing this and advocating this, they do not want our economy to be robust. They don't want a healthy America. They don't want our society to rebound. They don't want us to enjoy our constitutional rights that are recognition of God-given rights of who we are. And that's being done for, quite frankly, nefarious political purposes.
Let's get back to the economy. I've been hearing from some employers that they're having a tough time getting their workers back, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a resort, because they're making more money now with the federal $600 in there on top of the Arizona unemployment. Can anything be done to try to get these people back? There was no safeguard in there in this plan. I mean, it's almost like, again, it's going to be tough to get the economy going because businesses can't get their employees back.
Right, Garrett, I've heard the same thing in calls to me. We, just quick point, a number of us pointed that out, that flaw in the bill. But be that as it may, I know that we have produced several remedies to that. But quite frankly, because of potential litigation, we're not going to see any of that until after the first tranche goes away, and then you can put some stronger safeguards and change the incentives that are out there. But by then, you're looking at probably another 6 to 7 weeks of this, where businesses are trying to get employees back. They can't get them to come back. In the state level, if you are offered a job, you've got to take that job. In the federal level, you don't have to take the job. You just all you have to do is say, I looked for a job. Just check off a box. And the audits for that are going to be really impossible to make it impossible to enforce that. So it's just a cockeyed approach to how to do things, and that's the problem. So what we can do is we can do a remedy. There's proposals that we put together in the Republican conference in the House. The question is if Nancy Pelosi will let us do them, and so far she said no, because she actually wants to expand and increase the amount of those unemployment benefits.
So they want to keep the unemployment numbers high, so it hurts the president's reelection chances. That's the big plan. That's excellent. Last one for me. Speaking of that, do you think that there should be an FBI investigation into Joe Biden's being accused of sexual assault from Tara Reade?
Heavens, yes. I mean, they did that with Justice Kavanaugh. The hashtag Me Too movement has been so brutal. I just find it this double standard persistent, and I'm shocked, quite frankly, that the rank and file of the Democrats don't ever rise up and say enough's enough. Let's treat everybody fairly. But they're not willing to do that.
No, they are not. Congressman Biggs, thank you again for the time this morning. I'd love to get you on again as we try to open up everything. I'm hoping that the governor has the plan to open up every business, because I think it's, and actually, real quick, is it discriminatory to say restaurants can open but bars can't, other retail shops can open but gyms can't? Is that discriminatory? Do you think that's discriminatory in that aspect?
I think it violates constitutional principles. Yeah, I think that if he's going to say, well, similarly situated. We're just dealing with similarly situated, and that's really kind of some of the standard. But I view it this way: you can't say some businesses are essential and others are non-essential. You cannot prevent me from opening and conducting lawful business where I have every permit. I've done everything that is required of me according to the local law and the state law, and then you still keep me shut down. That's a taking. In my opinion, that becomes a taking, and the state should be responsible for losses during the time of taking.
Wow, fantastic, Congressman Biggs. I want to get you on again soon. Thank you for all the hard work and the great ideas you've given the people of Arizona. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks, Garrett. Good to be with you.